If you want to transform your nights, stabilize your energy, and finally experience deep, restorative sleep, the most powerful place to start is with your morning sunlight. Sleep does not begin at night. It begins in the morning. The quality of your rest is largely determined by how well your internal clock is aligned, and that clock is set primarily by sunlight. Inside your brain, a small structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus acts as your master timekeeper, regulating your circadian rhythm, which controls sleep, alertness, hormone release, and body temperature. When natural light enters your eyes shortly after waking, it sends a clear signal to this clock. The day has started. That signal triggers a healthy rise in cortisol, increases alertness, boosts mood-related neurotransmitters, and most importantly, starts a biological countdown that determines when melatonin will be released later in the evening. In simple terms, morning light sets the timer for tonight's sleep. If you skip this exposure and remain in dim indoor lighting, your clock receives a weak or confusing message, which can delay melatonin production and make you feel wired at bedtime. Outdoor light, even on cloudy days, is dramatically brighter than indoor light and far more effective at anchoring your rhythm. Just 10 to 30 minutes outside within the first hour of waking can strengthen the contrast between day and night in your nervous system. Over time, this stronger rhythm helps you fall asleep more easily, sleep more deeply, and wake up feeling clearer. Morning sunlight is not just about waking up. It is about teaching your body when to wind down. Morning sunlight triggers a hormonal chain reaction that influences your entire day and directly impacts your sleep at night. Shortly after exposure, cortisol rises in a healthy, natural peak that increases alertness, focus, and physical readiness. Without this light signal, that cortisol response can become delayed, leaving you groggy and low in energy. Sunlight also stimulates dopamine, which supports motivation and mental clarity, and boosts serotonin, a neurotransmitter linked to mood and calmness. Serotonin is especially important because it later converts into melatonin, the hormone that helps you fall asleep. About 12 to 16 hours after your first morning light exposure, melatonin begins to rise. If that morning signal was strong and consistent, the evening release tends to be smoother and better timed. In simple terms, early sunlight doesn't just wake you up, it programs your body for restful sleep later on. Now let's make this practical. How much morning sunlight do you actually need to improve your sleep? The answer depends on the weather, your environment, and how sensitive your circadian system is. But the key principle is simple. Outdoor light is dramatically more powerful than indoor light. On a clear day, about 5 to 10 minutes outside within the first hour of waking can be enough to anchor your internal clock. If the sky is cloudy, aim for 15 to 30 minutes. In darker winter conditions or very overcast climates, you may need closer to 30 to 60 minutes. Even then, natural daylight outdoors is still far brighter than typical indoor lighting. Most indoor spaces provide only a few hundred lux, while outdoor light, even on a gray morning, can reach several thousand to tens of thousands of lux. That intensity is what your brain uses to clearly distinguish day from night. You do not need to stare at the sun, and you should never look directly at it. Simply being outside, allowing natural light to enter your eyes without sunglasses for a short period, unless medically necessary, is sufficient. Consistency matters more than perfection. A brief daily exposure at roughly the same time each morning is far more effective than occasional long sessions. Over time, this regular light signal strengthens your circadian rhythm, making it easier to feel alert during the day and naturally sleepy in the evening. Timing is just as important as duration. The most effective window for morning sunlight exposure is within the first 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up. This is when your circadian system is especially sensitive to light, meaning the signal you send to your brain during this period has a powerful influence on when you will feel sleepy later. If you wake up before sunrise, go outside as soon as the sun comes up. If you wake after sunrise, step outdoors as quickly as possible. Early light exposure helps lock in your internal clock for the day and starts the countdown for melatonin release roughly 12 to 16 hours later. The earlier and more consistent this signal, the more predictable your evening tiredness becomes. Delaying light exposure by several hours can shift your rhythm later, making it harder to fall asleep at night. Think of morning light as pressing the start button on your biological timer. When you press it at a consistent time each day, your body learns exactly when to power down. Consistency is where the real transformation happens. One morning of sunlight will make you feel more awake, but several consecutive days of properly timed exposure begin to recalibrate your entire rhythm. Your circadian system thrives on regularity. Waking up at roughly the same time each day and pairing that wake up with natural light strengthens the contrast between day and night in your nervous system. Over time, this stronger rhythm leads to earlier evening sleepiness, faster sleep onset, and more stable energy throughout the day. Irregular schedules, sleeping in late on weekends, or staying indoors in dim light can weaken this rhythm and blur the boundaries between alertness and rest. Even small daily habits like stepping outside with your coffee, taking a short walk, or simply standing on a balcony for a few minutes can anchor your clock more effectively than complex nighttime routines. When your mornings become predictable, your evenings become effortless. The body begins to anticipate sleep instead of resisting it, and that anticipation is what makes deep, restorative rest feel natural rather than forced. Morning sunlight becomes even more powerful when you combine it with gentle movement and fresh air. Your circadian system does not respond to light alone. It also responds to activity. A short walk, light stretching, or simple mobility exercises outside amplify the wake-up signal you send to your brain. Movement raises body temperature, increases circulation, and reinforces the message that the active phase of the day has begun. This stronger daytime activation creates a clearer contrast with the evening, when your body temperature naturally drops to prepare for sleep. The greater the contrast between activation and recovery, the easier it is to fall asleep. Even 5 to 15 minutes of slow walking while exposed to natural light can significantly strengthen this rhythm. You do not need intense exercise. In fact, the goal is gentle stimulation, not exhaustion. By pairing sunlight with light physical activity, you create a double signal. Light tells your brain it is daytime, and movement tells your body it is time to engage. Together, they build a stable foundation for deeper, more restorative sleep later on. Finally, let's talk about preparing for the night by respecting the natural cycle of light and darkness. Morning sunlight sets the timer, but evening darkness completes it. Avoid bright artificial lights, especially blue-enriched screens, in the hours before bed, because they can delay melatonin release and confuse your internal clock. Dim lighting, calm activities, and a consistent bedtime signal to your body that it is time to wind down. The combination of early light exposure and evening darkness strengthens your circadian rhythm, creating a predictable cycle of alertness and rest. Over days and weeks, this alignment makes falling asleep easier, deepens restorative sleep stages, and helps you wake up feeling naturally refreshed. By understanding that sleep is programmed by light rather than just effort, you can use simple, intentional morning and evening habits to transform your nights without relying on pills or complicated routines. By simply stepping into the morning sunlight, moving gently, and respecting the natural rhythm of day and night, you can reset your body's internal clock and unlock deeper, more restorative sleep. These small, consistent habits, 10 minutes outside, a short walk, dimming lights at night, are more powerful than any supplement or routine. Your sleep is not just about bedtime. It starts with how you greet the day. Embrace the sun, honor your natural cycles, and watch as your nights become calmer, your rest more complete, and your days brighter and more energized.